This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call to order this meeting of the Technical Transportation Committee of Tippecanoe County. Our first order of business is approval of minutes from the previous meeting. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. With no further discussion, I'll proceed with a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Minutes have been approved. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is access permits. Do we have anything from NDOT?
Thank you. So as I was saying before the meeting, our permit manager position is still vacant. And although I reminded someone in the office to try to come up with a list as of Monday, I think she forgot. So I don't have an updated list, but I can say, I got to thinking, the Wawa permit that is at Veterans Memorial and 52, we certainly have a lot of activity. We've done a plan review. We're trying to get the right in, right out finalized. And I don't know if Jeremy, I don't know how you're doing on your leg there, but ours is coming together. So that's the most recent activity off of that list.
Yeah, I would say that we're working on it. I don't know if we've finalized, but we're getting close.
All right. Well, thank you. Next item on the agenda is some amendments to the fiscal year 24 through 28 Transportation Improvement Program. And Tim, you have the floor.
Yep. Okay. So we have a couple different amendments that we're going to bring to you. So our first one is to kind of move some money around in a funding trade. So we were very fortunate to get some favorable construction bids for the Morehouse Road Phase 2 project. And so we have been able to reallocate most of that money to other needs. But there was a $340,523 balance that we couldn't quite find a home for. So what we've decided to do is to kind of do a planning study to look at a potential connection between the current US 231 and the interstate. And in order to accomplish that, that would take quite a lot of work to get all that scoped and advertised to get someone hired. And we won't be able to do that by the end of this fiscal year. So we reached out to NDOT and they were willing to trade with us for money in fiscal year 26. So that will kind of give us some more time to scope this, to flesh out some of the details that aren't quite finalized yet. Frankly, we don't even quite know exactly who all would be involved in that. Obviously, we would anticipate the county and West Lafayette would certainly be involved. We even think Lafayette would have some benefit from that, but they probably wouldn't necessarily be financially involved, but they would be a stakeholder, as part of the study, since it would alleviate some traffic off of their roads. And certainly NDOT, of course, as well. But what type of study we would do, still up in the air. So to try to get all that sorted out and not rush and jam it in and get a poor quality project, we thought it was important to kind of defer a little bit to give everyone more time to sort through that. So our request is that you would approve this amendment to the policy board for their action next month. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take those at this time.
So I'll give you a moment to consider or make a motion.
I make a motion to recommend to the policy board the approval as stated.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you for that. Is there any discussion, questions? Okay. Being none, I'll proceed with the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Still have the floor.
Yep. Okay, so our next one is something that I think is going to be some pretty good projects that our partners at NDOT would like us to program. So there are 3 different projects that they would like us to program. The first 2 are various locations throughout the districts. And these are specifically for the MSE walls, the mechanically stabilized earth walls, and they just need some maintenance. Obviously, we want to make sure that those are up to par. So those are the first 2 there that you see. And then the third one involves installing sidewalks and ramps along Special 52, getting us close to Morehouse Road, which is definitely an area of need. There are a lot of pedestrians in that area, so we're excited to see this one as well. That one's targeting construction in fiscal year 29. And you can see all the different funding numbers in the tables there if you're interested in that level of specificity. So again, we're looking for approval of this to the policy board for their ultimate approval. Any questions about this? Or comments from NDOT maybe?
I just have one quick question. The MSE wall repairs, do you know where some of those locations are by chance?
I have not seen offhand. Fortunately, Doug's not here today, so I'm kind of pinch hitting for him. But he seemed to indicate that both these did touch our district. So.
Stu, are any of those related to bridges at all in your area? Do you know what they're related to? I was just curious. We've had MSC wall issues at our bridges specifically.
Yeah, I know, we're doing some new MSC right now, and we're under the new spec. But, your first MSC. I don't know what you have out there with MSC.
Well, we would be doing our own repairs, so I figured this, I just wondered.
Stu, your mic's off.
Sorry. I'm trying to picture our overpasses, because we're doing the approaches, and I can't recall.
When we do soil repair, it's usually a repair to stop a slide, at least temporarily. If that's not the repair we normally do with our MSC walls. So that was, I wondered where, and so Doug's the expert.
More so than me.
And Jeremy's looking like it doesn't ring a bell with him. So I trust Doug's request, so I'll vote for it. But I'm curious, maybe at the next meeting, if we get a little more info on what it was, maybe.
Yeah, I can tell you that it was requested by you guys. Someone.
I know that surprises me too, because the
someone
bridge
should
guys
know.
are in my team, so that's,
Okay.
I wasn't aware of this one.
But somewhere Doug has a more detailed description, right? Location, bridge number, that kind of thing. I would assume.
Yeah, it might be buried in SPMS, but it should be around there
Should
somewhere.
be in there. Can't picture one.
So what is the pleasure of the committee regarding this item?
Do we have a sense on the urgency? If it's not urgent, a delay may not impact things negatively, but I'd hate to delay for some detail that.
Yeah.
How time sensitive?
What? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, part of the challenge is just generally this time of year, it's a little tighter time window since we're getting close to lockdown, at least for us. But since these are NDOT projects, I don't know if they have a little more leeway.
since they are NDOT and they could amend and Doug put them in there, feels safer to go ahead and pass them through and then amend it later. I mean, does that make sense to you?
I would be okay with that.
Amendable.
Yeah, I would.
So I guess I can make the motion to pass something that I'm not sure what it is or why we asked for it.
We'll take the money.
Do I
That's
have?
your money anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question about the sidewalk portion. Does this include, we had the meeting about how we can incorporate the Paramount project with the NDOT project, and I'm assuming this is following that? Okay, wonderful. Glad to see that moving forward.
And this includes all those parts we discussed all the way from, what are the limits of this?
Yes, so it goes just east of Morehouse to 1.3 miles east of 231.
Okay.
Connects into the trail in West Lafayette and all that stuff, yeah. Nothing further.
Okay.
Me.
Nothing further.
Okay, if all minds are clear, we'll proceed with the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you very much. The next portion of our agenda is APC progress report, several MPO update items, and the NDOT 18-month letting list. Tim, you still have the floor.
Yep. So we'll start with the draft transportation improvement program, which we don't necessarily have anything for attached to the packet, but that is moving forward. At our last meeting, we did go through the exercise of prioritizing funding for projects for different years. So after that, we took all that information, compiled it into a draft. The draft is posted on our website. So if you would like to view the draft version of that, that is an option. We are kind of awaiting comments, and we will take it to our next Citizens Participation Committee meeting as the formal public hearing, and that will be in March. And so that will allow us to hopefully have this adopted by the time that DOT wants us to have it adopted. So that's progressing well. I don't think I have anything that would necessarily need action or anything that's out of the ordinary with this process, but if there are any questions about the TIP document, I'd be happy to answer those. Okay, looks like everybody's satisfied with that, so we'll move on to our next item, which is another informational item, and that is that we will have a planning certification review, which is something we have every 4 years. It's essentially an audit to kind of verify that we are following all the federal procedures correctly as an MPO, and that we're documenting what we do, and that we're being transparent with some of our financial reporting and billing and those sorts of things. So that is going to be held this Friday. It will actually be in this room. It is open to anyone who wants to attend. I understand that it is an audit, so it's going to be start at 9, and it's going to go till probably about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. With there'll be breaks, but so it is a pretty lengthy thing. But if anyone is interested, you are welcome to attend because it is open. So I just wanted to let you know that that's happening. And if you're not interested and you don't attend, I'm not offended at all. Any questions about that? Okay, I don't see any, so we can go ahead and move on to the next item, which is our cost allocation plan approval. So the cost allocation plan is a financial document that we put together. It's an important part of our Unified Planning Work Program. And we have submitted that to NDOT in January and received their approval of it, which is good. So we will then be submitting a draft of the full document sometime probably next week to NDOT for their review and comments. And then we will be bringing it back in a couple months for adoption, assuming all goes well, which I think it should. So I just wanted to let you know that this is moving forward and that we have their approval for this kind of first key piece of that document. If there are any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those as well. Okay, not seeing any, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next item, which is a federal funding update. So we are getting pretty close to the end of the time when we need to really make sure we have all our funding locked down. There is a specific date in April, and we kind of have to have all our funding allocated, otherwise it's not going to get allocated, and we're going to lose it. Fortunately, we think we do have that all sorted out. There are several cells in this spreadsheet that are highlighted, and basically, through our TIP, we've kind of allocated all this funding, but we are waiting on various amendments and such to get finally processed so that it shows up in NDOT's version of the report. This is pretty typical that things will show up in our documentation before they show up in NDOT's documentation. So even though it's showing in ours and not theirs, that's not really something to be concerned about, at least not at this point. So we think we should be able to, once again, obligate all of our federal dollars, which is something we always try to do. You know, we never want to lose any of that money. We want to get every dollar we can out to you guys as our LPAs. So it looks like everything should be on track. Particularly, maybe one thing I will note is the City Bus Paramount Sagamore Parkway project, which is kind of highlighted in that green there, the 581,131. So that we've kind of been waiting on for a while. We should have a STIP amendment coming up very soon. So I think next month that should get shown in the NDOT report, and we should be able to move, I'm fingers crossed, on that. So that one at least should be resolved pretty soon. And hopefully most of the rest of these will in the next month or two, and we can show that we have all our funding obligated. Any questions about this? All right, hearing none, I will go ahead and move on to the 18-month letting list. We'll start with some bid letting results for January. We had 2 projects that were awarded. These were both various location type of projects. There were some traffic signal visibility improvements, as well as some raised pavement markings, specifically refurbishing those. Those were both awarded. Both of the low bids for each project came in under the engineer's estimate, so those were awarded. We do have a couple projects that were scheduled to let a week ago. One on US 52 and one on State Road 25. A couple bridge projects. So Doug, who usually handles this, isn't here today, so I'm not sure if those were awardable or not. I don't know if NDOT happens to know offhand.
I'm not sure either, but recently, most projects are getting low bids and being awarded. So I'm not sure 100%, but odds are they were.
Yeah, last I talked to Doug, he'd indicated that he thought these were probably going to get awarded as well. So between that, I think there's a good chance those will get awarded, which is great. And then the other thing that I kind of want to...
Tim, if I can butt in 1 second,
Please.
The exception to that, and it's not coming up again until April, it's highlighted there, the 225 River Bridge. I don't know if and when we finally get that one let. There have been various issues and a couple of attempts. So
Yes.
That's the exception right now.
Yeah, that was the next one I was actually going to bring up, Bill. So we're thinking on the same page there. I think my understanding, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that you guys are trying to bundle that with another project to see if that can get let.
We're trying a lot of things. We've talked about that one here many times over the last 2 to 3 years. So we have final plans, we've been to letting, so we're close. We just need to get appropriate bids so we can get somebody working.
Yeah, it's tough when you're working with those historic bridges. It's very specialized work, not necessarily a lot of competition for bids. So, we understand that it's not easy and that you guys are trying, every trick in your bag to get it pushed out. So we do appreciate that, and we think once that does get done, it will be a pretty big benefit to have that able to be open to traffic again. So we're looking forward to that, and thank you, NDOT, for your efforts to get that moving. I don't have anything else I wanted to call special attention to. Everything else is kind of a few months out. But if there are any questions, either for us or for NDOT, please feel free to go ahead and voice those at this time.
Okay. There appearing to be no questions regarding the letting list. The next item, Tim, still on the floor, quarterly reports.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go through those, starting with Tippecanoe County. So our first project is the North 9th Street Road Bridge. So our question kind of on this is, we are kind of running close to some of the project milestones. Do we anticipate that the project's going to be able to still hit those milestones as listed, especially the letting, obviously, is the big one at the end of the year? So we're still good for November. All right, great, glad to hear that. Our next project is River Road at 500 North. We did not receive a report for this, which usually means that everything's closed out. So that's great. One less thing for Stu to work on next month. All right. Great, glad to hear that's been closed. Thank you, Stu. Moving on to Morehouse Road. So Morehouse Phase 1, we didn't particularly have any comments on this. There were some small adjustments to the dollar values to match out everything with contract and change orders and all that. But the construction for Phase 1 has been completed. So unless you had anything you wanted to comment about on that one, Stu. Okay, so we'll probably see that a few more times, but there won't be too much activity on that report, which is great. Moving on to the active phase of Morehouse Phase 2. So again, you do see some updated construction estimates, and that those are a lot lower because we got the favorable bids causing the decrease in the costs. So earlier when we were talking about moving that funding for the Northern Connector study, that's where that money came from. So anything else you want to add to that, Stu?
Just waiting for spring.
Great. Okay, great. So Jaeger Road reconstruction, again, one that's kind of just been hanging on to the last vestiges for a while. Is that one closed? POs are closed?
The final construction record when you left.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, glad to hear that. Okay, so Jaeger is wrapped up. So similar for the McCutcheon Pedestrian Safety Project. Where's that one at?
Done. We closed out the CE.
Okay.
Final construction's in. We had a little issue just cleaning up some utilities, but I'm not sure why the project is still showing up. You? I'll look into that.
Okay, so
I
that
don't remember filling out a report.
so that might be one we
Yeah, if it's
We-
not
that
already
closes
gone,
out.
it
Okay.
should-
Okay.
Should really be gone.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. That's some good news. Glad to hear that things are moving. Okay, so moving into some of our bridge projects. So we have Bridge 64 and 65, which are paired together. We didn't have any particular comments for either of these projects, but Stu, if there's anything you want to add?
Programmed a lot of time away. Finishing up the one parcel right away and just sit waiting for the specs to update.
Okay, sounds good. Continuing our bridge projects, Bridge 527. So this project did let in November. So because of that, we had, again, some cost adjustments to reflect the letting. So that's why you see some changes there. Any comments on that one, Stu?
Construction, that May. Should be open for winter, but the way things stand right now, construction will go into 26, May or June.
All right, that's good to know. Thank you. So then our next pair of bridge projects, Bridges 80 and 83. Okay.
Winter construction.
Mhm.
Won't be open.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
And it wasn't on the record anyway because my light wasn't on.
All right. Okay, so going back to Bridges 80 and 83, so not too much here. So there were some delays for some environmental issues on Bridge 80, which I believe also impacts Bridge 83 because they want to be led as a pair. Yep. So that's why some of the dates have been moving around in the past few quarterly reports. Other than that, I don't think we have any comments, unless you had something you wanted to add, Stu?
No, they're moving forward with the full 106. That's the control.
All right, well, we know that process takes some time sometimes, so, I think we've been able to get that information early enough that we can adjust our schedule appropriately, so. Okay, so our next project is a new report. This is the first time we've seen this report in the system. It's North River Road from West Lafayette city limits to I-65. So still kind of sorting out the details on that, as is typical for a first-time report. Any information you wanted to add about this, Stu?
Yep, we're ready to sign a PE, and it's going to take longer. We've had the early coordination, and we do have to do a NEPA. So it's going to take longer than I was hoping.
Okay, well, thanks for the update. We'll see where that one goes in the next couple reports. Okay, so then our last county project is the county bridge inspections. We did not have any comments on this. Looks like everything is proceeding as scheduled. Do you have anything you wanted to add for this one, Stu?
Nothing. We're moving in May. We'll do the FEMAS for the last phase. And then later in the fall, we'll RFP the next inspection. It never ends.
Right, yes, this will be on here till the end of time.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so that concludes Tippecanoe County's project, so we'll go ahead and move on to Lafayette. And their first several projects here are all kind of grouped together. So the questions we have for them is really all one question. So that's the South 9th Street project, and we know that that one's on a pretty tight timeline for the various phases. So are we still anticipating that all the project milestones will be met, or have there been any delays or issues that might compromise that?
Yeah, we are still on schedule to hit our project milestones. So.
Okay, so, yeah,
We did-
again.
The timing is tight. We did find out that we needed an additional permit for construction in a floodplain. But I think we have enough time to make that work, so.
Yeah, and then, like I said.
We were doing additional work regarding the bridge, and were told by somebody that we didn't need this particular permit. We have it in writing, and then when we checked back in, they said, well, we've changed our minds, so. So that's probably the most. That, we're working on utility coordination, and we're also working on our right-of-way, which is coming along nicely.
Yep. So then again, our next couple projects are really all related to that. It's just the different phases of that. So unless you wanted to add any additional comments for one of these specific phases, we can, I think, go ahead and move on to the next project, Jeremy.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. I do think before I turn in quarterly reports next time, we should probably sit down and go over some of these questions, and because I still don't think they're fully up to date yet after splitting the project into two phases and adding in two other local projects to the mix, so.
Okay. We would be happy to do that. Certainly, I think we would want Doug from our office in that as well, so he can make sure that what we're saying here aligns with what's in the tips, especially since we're kind of in that weird phase where we're sort of doing two tips because we're still under the old one, but we're trying to make sure that the draft one is up to date as well. So we would definitely want to make sure he's included in that meeting too.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so then our intersection signal preemption project, which is both a Lafayette and West Lafayette project. So this one, we did a little bit of a flip-flop where we switched which years the funding is going into for each city. So instead of giving Lafayette the funding first, we're going to be giving West Lafayette the funding first, just so that the dollar amounts align better for the new tip. So I know that consultant selection by this point
It has happened.
Okay.
We're in negotiations right now.
Okay,
So
good.
we should have a contract and be under contract shortly.
Okay. Good, that's kind of what we expected, but, you know, since the information is a little bit delayed from the system to when we get to this meeting, just want to double check on that. So glad to hear that's on track with negotiations. That's good.
A quick comment for both cities. If any of the NDOT signals are a part of this, it does take an agreement with us for that to happen, just a general reminder, because we're very early, but the sooner we know and start that, the better.
And we have already started that.
Oh, wow.
I think we may already have one. It may just need to be amended, or maybe it hasn't been signed yet.
If
but
we
it's-
already have a signal preemption agreement, we can add more locations to it. I did not remember, nor did I think we had one in West Lafayette. And it would
Okay.
take two separate ones because two different communities.
Okay.
So if West Lafayette doesn't, we'll need to start that.
Okay, that is good to know. So that was the last one we have on the list for Lafayette. So moving on to West Lafayette. So our first project is Soldiers Home Road. So we got a couple notes from Ben at West Lafayette there. So specifically, the environmental report schedule. So the Section 106 historic eligible properties has kind of extended that process. That's still ongoing. And then the right-of-way certification, again, because of the 106, this kind of also moved that part of the process back as well. And I did want to note that our staff is involved in kind of monitoring some of these a little more in real time than we can get from these quarterly reports. There are biweekly meetings. We have a staff member that attends those. So we are tracking with that. But yeah. So I don't have anything additional on this unless you wanted to add anything, Ben. Okay. All right, and then the next one, the westbound Special 52, is again really the same comment since it's related to, of course, the first project. So nothing additional from me on that one. Moving on to Soldiers Home Road. So this is kind of phase 2. It's the next phase of that project. So I believe West Lafayette did come to, or select a consulting firm, and they're working on negotiations. I don't know if those have been complete yet or if those are still in process.
They're almost complete. We're having it checked over.
All right, so that's good. It's moving forward, which is really what's important for our purposes. So, okay, great. Thank you, Ben. And then our very last project, the Sagamore Parkway Trail Project. So this one has been lingering for a little bit because of a few items that needed to be cleaned up and some stuff with that. So the contract did expire, which meant that a new contract had to be prepared. So because of that, the state attorney general, I think, was kind of one of the last signatories on that contract. And then once that's complete, we can begin work to obligate some of the additional funds for this project that we promised. I don't know if you've heard if that has been signed yet, Ben, or if we're still waiting on the attorney general.
As far as I know, we're still waiting.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything, but I'm not always 100% up to date on, or the first person to hear that, so just want to double check. So that, again, that's fine. Whenever that does happen, just let us know, reach out, and we can move this forward. So, okay. All right, so sounds like generally things are moving, which is good. We like to hear that. So thank you, everyone, for all your work on this. We know that it's not as simple as, these reports make it seem. There's a lot of work that goes into these behind the scenes, so thank you, everyone, for your partnership on all this. And if there are any further questions or issues we need to sort out specifically with any of these projects, always do feel free to reach out to our staff and we'll get someone to help you.
All right. Thank you. Now we're at the portion of the meeting where we entertain other business items, and Tim has something that he'd like to put before the committee with respect to the next meeting.
Yes, so typically we do meet on this third Wednesday. However, as it happens, next month that will conflict with road school. And I know that many of us will be attending that, including pretty much all of our staff. So we thought, well, that's not going to work to have our typical meeting time. So kind of what we're proposing is to move it back a week to Wednesday, March 26th. So we wanted to know if that seems like that would work for people's schedules. To move it back. Obviously, we would still want to make sure we can get a quorum. It doesn't do us any good to meet and, try to approve amendments and stuff if we can't get anybody here. So does the 26th seem like that'll work for people? I'd open the floor to comments or questions. Okay, I'm seeing several thumbs up. So then what we'll do from our end is that we will try to send out a couple additional calendar reminders and emails and such, just because it's kind of outside of the normal workflow for the schedule. So those will probably come from Jen at our office. So if you see something from her about that, that's what it's about. Okay, so we will go ahead and officially move that to March 26th at 2. And we'll make sure also that we, advertise that on our social media and our website and stuff so that any members of the public who would be interested in that are aware of that change.
Okay. Is there any other business to be brought to the committee? Okay, there appearing to be none. This is also an item on the agenda that we allow for citizen comments. If there is anyone in the room who would like to comment on anything. There appearing to be no comments from the citizenry, then we'll move on to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Okay. It's been motion and second that we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. I think it was unanimous anyway. I declare this meeting adjourned and with the intent of meeting again on March 26th. Thank you.